A hidden act of love from a maid to a millionaire exposed. Incredible transformative reaction. In the heart of a bustling American suburb, where silver SUVs glinted under the sun and manicured lawns whispered tales of privilege, Maria toiled day in and out. A 32-year-old maid with calloused hands and a heart full of dreams, she juggled 3 jobs just to make ends meet for her 2 kids. She wanted more for them. A life that sparkled away from the shadows of their humble apartment. Each morning she strapped on her worn-out shoes, a battle cry echoing in her heart. "This is for you, my darlings." Then there was Jack, the millionaire, once the king of the neighborhood with his grand parties and glitzy lifestyle. Now his mansion felt like a tomb, devoid of laughter and warmth. Friends who had flocked to him like moths to a flame now passed him on the street without so much as a nod. He sat alone in his vast living room, staring at the remnants of his past, pride suffocating him as he realized how quickly the world can turn its back. As fate would have it, Maria was assigned to clean Jack's house, a simple job that felt like crossing the boundaries of 2 contrasting worlds. She dusted the chandeliers, her movements fluid yet heavy with the weight of judgment, knowing her family could never understand her proximity to wealth. Yet, amid the polished surfaces, something stirred within her. Jack's solitude tugged at her heartstrings. Maria began sneaking in small acts of kindness, homemade lunches wrapped in colorful paper, a listening ear for Jack's tales of loss. "It's just beans and rice," she would smile, but Jack saw more than just food. He saw care. Each day she extended that kindness, she felt a little lighter, but the tension at home grew. "He's a millionaire," her family sneered. "Don't you see the difference?" Still, what happened next was unexpected. One day, while dusting the leather-bound books, Jack found a hidden note Maria had written, barely legible but bursting with belief. "You still have purpose. Appreciate the little things." It struck him like lightning. She saw him when he couldn't see himself. Heart-clenching, he knew this was not just a maid. This was a woman embodying the spirit of resilience. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As whispers of his comeback filled the air, a pivotal event approached, an opportunity for Jack to reclaim his social standing.
Yet in the midst of it all, it was Maria who loomed in his mind. Could he just slip back into the old life, or had she rekindled something deeper within him? Jack stood before the shimmering crowd, the room buzzing with anticipation. The feeling of uncertainty cloaked him. Would he speak of luxury and wealth, or share a newfound understanding of human connection? As he stepped onto the stage, he could feel the weight of the moment pressing down. What would he reveal? What would Maria's selfless acts lead to? An invisible thread wove through their lives, bridging worlds divided by class and privilege. In that moment, Jack had to decide. Would he let the fear of judgment dictate his heart, or risk everything to honor the humanity Maria had shown him? The energy in the room vibrated with possibility, sparking curiosity about what would happen when the lines of class blurred, leaving spectators eager to see if love could truly transform the heart of the affluent. As Jack gazed out at the sea of familiar faces, a rush of vulnerability surged through him. The bright lights shimmered like stars above a dark ocean, and for a brief moment, he felt lost at sea, unsure of how to navigate these waters. His heart raced, the ghost of Maria's note still echoing in his mind. "You still have purpose. Appreciate the little things." Those simple words ignited a warmth within him, pushing aside the coldness that had settled in his bones. With a deep breath, he took a step forward, scanning the crowd. The murmurs quieted, and anticipation clung to the air like an unfinished symphony. Their eyes were hungry for the usual display of wealth, or perhaps a grand announcement about another investment or deal. Yet, what if he surprised them? "Thank you all for coming," Jack began, the tremor in his voice betraying his nerves. "It's been a challenging time for me." He paused, letting the silence deepen, creating a space for honesty in a room filled with glamour and expectation. I've realized that while I've been busy chasing success, I lost sight of what truly matters. A few frowns and puzzled expressions flickered through the crowd. Words weren't what they expected to hear from him, the millionaire who once basked in the glow of admiration and envy. "I've spent so many years defining my worth by my possessions," he continued, grateful for the strength that flowed from Maria's kindness. "But what good is wealth when you're held prisoner by loneliness?" Gasps echoed softly, skeptical eyes narrowing. Jack could envision Maria's smile, warm and hopeful, and it pushed him farther, like a boat catching a breeze. "It's easy to count money and failure, but I've come to measure success differently, in gratitude, in relationships, and in moments of kindness." He took another breath, picturing her loyal spirit, as he shared the simplest story. The day Maria found an old, forgotten photograph tucked among the dusty pages of a book he thought he'd never look at again.
She saw the heart behind the facade, and in that small moment, she reminded me of the joy I had lost. The room began to shift. Faces softened, their hardened exteriors cracked by a tide of unexpected empathy. Jack didn't just speak, he bared his soul, and there was something in the collective breath that shifted. In the back of the auditorium, Maria stood frozen, her heart racing as Jack spoke words that felt like they were woven from her own dreams. She had hoped for a moment where he would see the worth of human connection, never expecting it to happen in front of so many people. "I've decided," Jack announced, eyes sweeping the crowd, "to give back to the community, to invest not just in businesses, but in lives, the lives of hard-working individuals who make this place special, like Maria. And I want to share this journey with all of you." Cheers erupted from unexpected corners. Some stood in applause, others wiping away tears. The atmosphere was electric, confusion replaced by a newfound respect. As Jack stepped away from the podium, deeper connections forged in the eyes of the people around him. He caught sight of Maria in the back, her eyes wide with disbelief. He couldn't help but smile, knowing the doors of possibility had swung open. They had crossed thresholds together, unknown destinies intertwining. But what did this mean for Maria? As the applause faded, did she dare to hope for more than just friendship? Fear and excitement swirled within her. Was this the beginning, or merely a flicker in their story? With hearts pounding, Jack and Maria reached for the moment, each step closer to discovering the true impact of their shared humanity. In that charged silence, a new chapter loomed, one that would question everything they thought they understood about themselves. Was destiny calling, and could it lead them to the love neither dared to dream about? The applause hung in the air like the scent of spring blossoms, fresh and surprising. Jack could hardly believe the response to his words. Yet as he searched the crowd for Maria, a weight began to settle in his chest. What if this was all too much? What if sharing his heart created a distance he couldn't bridge? He pushed through the thrumming crowd, excitement building. He wanted to speak to her, to see the light in her eyes when she realized what he had done. The people surrounding him were buzzing with conversations, raising glasses and patting him on the back. Some offered congratulations, others whispered words of disbelief. In that moment, he saw his successful facade being peeled away, layer by layer. It was both thrilling and terrifying. Maria remained at the back, her distance from the front a stark contrast to the enthusiasm swirling around Jack. Jack's heart sank when he saw the uncertainty on her face. Was she overwhelmed by his revelations, embarrassed by the attention, or both? The sparkle he had hoped to see was clouded by apprehension. Finally, he reached her side.
She stood there, arms crossed, as if shielding herself from what just transpired. Those moments of bold honesty had touched everyone but her, leaving a barrier that felt daunting. "Hey," he said softly, leaning closer. "You okay?" She blinked, inhaling deeply, her composure shaking. I didn't expect all of this." "I didn't either," Jack admitted, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. "But I meant every word, Maria. You've been my compass. I want to make things right." Her eyes widened. "Make things right? Jack, by saying those things, you've changed everything. I never thought you'd feel this way." His heart raced. "What do you mean?" Maria paused, searching his gaze for something. Hope?
assurance, or maybe a signal that he really knew what this meant. You're not just a millionaire, you're a person. And by showing them this new perspective, you've shifted not only your life, but theirs too. But what about us? Jack felt the pulsing electric charge between them, a connection that had always lingered in the shadows. He could feel his chance slipping, the emotional wall between them thickening with every second of hesitation. Us? We work together, Jack. I could stay in this world of routine, and you stood up there ready to change it all. I want to believe in us, but it's hard to reconcile that with who you were, who I thought you were. She turned her gaze to the bustling crowd, watching the celebration unfold. Jack felt the heat rise in his chest, a flame of determination igniting. She was right. This was new territory. He had to step across the threshold fully. What if we took that leap together? He suggested, desperate to close the divide. What if this is the beginning of not just me changing my life, but us finding a way to connect beyond this place? Maria hesitated, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. She was fragile yet powerful, a beauty bathed in uncertainty. But what if I disappoint you? He reached out and took her hand, grounding them in the moment. You won't, but I can't do this without you. The crowd around them swirled like a whirlwind, but in that fleeting moment, it all faded away. All that mattered was the warmth of their intertwined fingers and the flicker of hope dancing between them. Then, amid the ethereal hum of the night, Jack leaned in closer. Let's explore what this can really be. I'm ready to show you the real me, if you'll let me. As the words made their way into the air, they hovered like a promise. Was there a future in this fragile moment? Did Maria see the potential? With endless possibilities hanging in the balance, they stood on the precipice of new beginnings. But before they could dive deep, the sudden, sharp ring of Jack's phone shattered their connection, pulling them back to the reality they'd both momentarily escaped. Chapter after chapter unfolded at a relentless pace. What awaited them now? Would this be the winding turn towards love, or another opportunity missed?
The question lingered in the electric air between them. What would that call reveal about the journey ahead? Jack's heart raced as he fumbled for his phone, the blaring ringtone feeling like an unwelcome intrusion into the moment he was desperate to savor. Glancing at the screen, he saw it was his assistant, and the knot in his stomach tightened. She wouldn't call unless it was urgent. "Excuse me for a sec," he muttered to Maria, feeling the warmth of her hand slip away as he stepped back. With each word his assistant spoke on the other end, the heaviness of reality weighed down harder. There had been an overnight scandal involving one of his companies, something about mismanagement that could potentially derail everything he had been building. Each detail was worse than the last, robbing him of the breath he'd just gained from Maria's touch. As he ended the call, the buzzing crowd around him faded into a dull roar. Jack felt a conflict boiling inside him. Here was this moment of hope with Maria, an opportunity to dive into something real, something he had longed for, and yet this crisis threatened to tear it all away. When he returned to Maria, he tried to mask his panic, but he saw it reflected in her eyes. "What happened?" she asked, concern etched on her face. "Just business stuff," he said quickly, forcing a smile. "I can handle it." But his mind was racing with plans to mitigate the fallout. Maria took a step closer, her voice softening. "Jack, you're not just a businessman. You're a good person. You can take care of this, but don't forget to take care of yourself, too." Her empathy struck him hard. In the whirlwind of numbers, deals, and company policies, he had almost lost sight of that truth. "Thanks, Maria. I needed to hear that," he said, meaning it with every ounce of sincerity he could muster. For a moment she seemed to relax, but then her brow furrowed again. "But what about us? This is a big deal, and I don't want to be another distraction." "Maria," he moved in closer again, eyes locking on hers, "you're not a distraction. You're my motivation. I need to focus on what really matters, and you are what matters most right now." The air felt charged between them, thick with unspoken words. Just when it seemed they were on the verge of bridging the gap that had grown in those moments apart, his phone buzzed again in his pocket, a desperate plea from the office this time. He cursed under his breath, a mixture of frustration and helplessness surging through him. "Are you okay?" Maria asked tentatively, noticing the shift in his demeanor. Jack took a deep breath, weighing his options. He could go back to his world of chaos, where money and power defined success, or he could forge a new path, one where he shared the weight with her. "We need to talk about what this really means for us," he said. "I'm here, Jack." Her voice was steady, a lifeline in tumultuous waters. "But I don't want to be swept away."
"Neither do I," he replied, his heart hammering in his chest. The thought of not having her in his life felt like a blind spot he could no longer ignore. The pull between their two worlds was palpable. As he pondered the next step, a flicker of hope shone through the storm. He could still step forward, but questions loomed large. Could love truly thrive with the weight of expectations pressing down? Was he ready to fight for both his company and a chance at love? "Maria," he said, urgency bubbling beneath his calm facade, "will you help me navigate this chaos? Together?" She paused, searching his eyes, and he could see the youth of ambition, the spark of possibility. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, a sudden commotion erupted in the crowd. Someone was shouting out. What now? Jack's heart sank. Was this the moment of truth, or just another hurdle? He turned to face the noise, sensing that everything was about to change. But how? Jack's stomach twisted as he turned, instinctively taking a step closer to Maria. The shouting intensified, drowning out the laughter and chatter of the nearby tables. It was the sound of chaos making itself known, and it seeped into the moment they had just nearly seized. "Stay here," he said, not quite believing his own words. An urge to protect her rose within him. He felt like a tethered balloon about to be released into a storm. As he moved forward, he barely glanced over his shoulder at Maria. She'd said she wanted to be there for him, but now he was the one who felt lost. The crowd was shifting, and curiosity turned into a fear that prickled at his skin. What was happening? He stepped over a few scattering chairs, his heart thumping louder than the voices around him. When he reached the edge of the gathering, a young woman in a vibrant red dress was standing on a makeshift platform, a few stacked boxes by a food stall. Her face was flushed with passion as she raised her arms, demanding attention. "Jack Morgan," she shouted, and the crowd hushed, eyes narrowing on him. His name hung in the air like a heavy weight, and he cursed silently. What now? He was just trying to handle one disaster. He didn't need to be put on display for another. "People," she continued. "He says he cares about us, but behind closed doors, he's ruining lives. He's a fraud. He doesn't even know how many employees he's put at risk." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Jack's chest tightened. This wasn't a mismanaged company story. It felt personal. Had the press gotten wind of his struggles, or was there more to this? Jack could barely think straight. "Wait," he called out, his voice barely cutting through the murmurs. But the woman wasn't finished. "You say you want to change the world, Jack. Then why don't you start by treating your workers like humans?" The audience shifted, some nodding in agreement, while others leaned back, uncertain. Jack felt his blood run cold. A spotlight was casting shadows on his reputation. He could either let it consume him or fight back. Breaking free of the crowd's grip felt impossible at that moment, but he had to say something, anything. He cast a glance back at Maria, who stood watching, anxiety etched across her features. He couldn't let this continue. Not now, not when they had just found a spark between them. "Listen," he shouted, raising his hands. "I'm doing my best to fix what's wrong. I value my team more than anyone here could know. We're facing challenges, and I invite you to speak to me, not tear me down in public." There were mixed reactions. Some people cheered, while others remained skeptical. Jack's stomach churned. Who was right? The crowd was reflecting his own fears back at him. From the corner of his eye, he noticed Maria step forward, bold and unwavering. The look on her face told him she was ready to stand by him, even in this storm. "Maybe this isn't about tearing down or pointing fingers," she said, her voice cutting through the clamor. "It's about finding a way forward together. Jack does care. He listens. Let's give him a chance to prove it." He could hardly breathe through the relief flooding over him. There she was, standing firm where he felt shaky. Her unwavering faith in him was what he needed. Time seemed to pause for a brief moment, as silence hung in the air, heavy with tension. Just as Jack opened his mouth to respond, the woman in red shouted again, "What's stopping you from being transparent, Jack? If you're serious about change, let us know what happens next." Jack felt like he was at a crossroads. The weight of expectations settled on his shoulders, and he realized this was a pivotal moment.
Would he embrace vulnerability and share the truth behind his struggles, or would he close himself off and risk everything, including the connection he had with Maria? The stakes just climbed higher, and deep down, he knew there were no easy answers ahead. Would he lay bare his uncertainties, or would he retreat into his crafted world, risking losing not only his business, but also the love blooming beside him? How could he face the crowd and Maria if he didn't know which way to turn next? Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every gaze resting on him. The murmur of the crowd felt like an electric current, sparking doubts and fears he thought he had buried. How could he reveal his struggles without exposing himself completely? But Maria's voice still echoed in his mind. Let's give him a chance to prove it. She believed in him, and somehow that made him feel stronger. He thought of the late nights spent rejigging budgets, the sleepless hours worrying about layoffs, and the sacrifices he'd made in the name of progress. He started, but the words were buried under the lump in his throat. Just say it, the woman in red demanded, impatience coursing through her voice.
Fine, I'll be open, he said, suddenly feeling the desperation to connect erupt inside him. I'm scared. Scared because I know how much my decisions affect those who work for me. I don't have all the answers, and I've made mistakes along the way, but I'm trying to fix them. A hush fell over the crowd, and Jack pressed on, each admission ripping away layers of his carefully crafted exterior. Yes, I've hesitated to show what we're working on because I feared judgment, he admitted. But I see now that I can't do this alone. You all deserve to see the changes we're making. The group stirred, some faces softening, others remaining hard as stone. Jack's eyes flicked once more to Maria. She offered him a small, encouraging smile, and the warmth it ignited within him pushed him onward. I've launched programs for mental health support, he continued, and we're trying to introduce more flexible hours. I want feedback from my team, but I can't get it if I don't allow you in on the process. As he shared his journey, the red dress woman observed quietly, her initial fervor dwindling. Had she expected him to crumble? Instead, the more Jack spoke, the less he felt weighed down. He was bearing his vulnerabilities, and for the first time, he felt an unexpected surge of clarity. I want to move forward together, not through division, but through understanding. If you have thoughts or concerns, bring them to me. I'm here to listen. The atmosphere shifted, an undercurrent of empathy weaving through the crowd as murmurs turned into thoughtful exchanges. Jack had taken a risk, and while he couldn't see where this was leading, he sensed a change. Maybe he could show that vulnerability could create a path forward. Suddenly, a voice broke through. Why should we believe you? Words are easy. A man stepped forward, skepticism painted across his face. Because I'm here asking for help, Jack replied, the intensity returning to his voice. Because I'm holding myself accountable. I understand that actions matter more than promises. I can't expect anyone's trust unless I'm willing to prove that I'm committed to real change. The crowd seemed to absorb his words, trading glances of uncertainty mixed with cautious hope. Jack's heart raced as he scanned their faces, all looking for something he couldn't quite pinpoint. Maybe validation, perhaps redemption. And then it dawned on him. This moment was pivotal not just for his company, but for him personally. Could he allow himself to be truly seen? Just as the tension lifted slightly, Maria stepped into view, standing up. You know, change always starts from within. Jack is doing the work to transform himself. She turned toward him, sincerity radiating from her. We're here together, in this. Together we can make a difference. A ripple of agreement coursed through the crowd. Jack felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. They were shifting, leaning toward the possibility of connection rather than criticism.
Yet, he couldn't shake the doubt that nagged at his conscience. Would he be able to back up these promises with action? With a newfound resolve, purpose within him. But then, just as he thought they might find common ground, another voice rose above the murmur, a familiar face from his past breaking through the crowd, and Jack's heart dropped at the sight. What have you promised them, Jack? Are they just more pawns in your game? His world felt like it teetered again on the edge of chaos. The crowd turned, eyes widening, as the situation he thought he was taking control of slipped once more into uncertainty. How would he navigate this new threat, and could Maria stick by him when doubts arose once again? The true challenge was only beginning. Jack felt a chill race down his spine at the sound of that familiar voice. The man from his past, Ethan, stood there with his arms crossed, an air of smugness surrounding him.
Jack's heart pounded in his chest as eyes shifted between him and the intruder, the weight of expectation heavy in the air. "What do you mean?" Jack asked, his voice caught somewhere between defiance and uncertainty. Ethan stepped closer, a sinister smile curling his lips. "You know the game, Jack. This isn't new. You charm them with empty promises like you did before. You think they'll forget the way you led them straight into chaos." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some faces shifted back to skepticism. Jack's mind raced. He needed to respond, needed to steer this moment back to where it was supposed to be. But doubt crept in, wrapping around him like a vine. "I'm not trying to manipulate anyone," Jack said, his voice stronger now. "I'm being honest about my flaws and asking for your help to change. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?" The atmosphere thickened, the room filled with tension as Ethan leaned in closer. "Honestly? Or is this just another show? The grand performer trying to salvage his reputation? You've lost their trust before, Jack." A wave of murmurs echoed in the crowd, and Jack's heart sank. He glanced at Maria, who stood a few steps back with worry etched across her face. Her unwavering belief felt like a lifeline, but was even she starting to doubt him? "I'm not perfect," Jack exclaimed, an edge of desperation creeping into his tone. "I've made mistakes. I'm here to rebuild, to fight for this team that means so much to me." Ethan laughed, a sharp and mirrorless sound. "Rebuilding means showing results, not just playing nice. Let's see what's really changing, shall we?" He gestured widely at the crowd. "Are any of you ready to buy into this act again?" Jack felt the blood rush to his face, igniting a fire within him. It was one thing to be challenged, but it was another to see hope flickering like a candle about to be snuffed out.
He took a deep breath, fists clenched at his sides. "You don't know what it means for me to be here," he said, each word heavy with conviction. "You don't see how much I want this, how much I want to make it right. But trust takes time, and that's precisely what I'm asking for." The crowd shifted once again, uncertain glances exchanged. Jack leaned forward slightly, trying to absorb the gravity of the moment. "We can't move forward if we're stuck in fear. I need your input. I want us to build something real together. Give me a chance to show you." Ethan rolled his eyes, arms still crossed. "Trust? You think you're entitled to their trust just because you're scared? It doesn't work that way, Jack." He felt Maria's presence behind him, grounding and warm. "No, it doesn't. But change starts somewhere," she called out, her voice slicing through the tension. "It starts with vulnerability, with acknowledging that we all have our battles. Everyone in this room knows struggle, Jack, and they can see it in you. What matters is where you go from here." More murmurs flowed from the crowd, the energy shifting. Jack searched faces, finding some nodding, others still skeptical, but noticeably engaged. Could it be that they were willing to listen? That perhaps some had connected with his words after all? But he knew Ethan wouldn't back down easily. That tight knot in his chest remained, a constant reminder of what was at stake. Could he truly prove himself this time? Just as he felt the slightest flicker of hope ignite, Ethan smirked. "Fine. Let's watch how long this facade lasts, Jack. I'll be waiting." With a final glare at Ethan, Jack turned back to the crowd, resolve flooding through him. "And so will I. Let's move beyond judgments. Show me how I can earn your trust." As silence settled, a young woman in the crowd spoke up hesitantly. "What's your plan? How do you intend to prove that you mean it?" Jack's eyes widened. This was the moment he'd been searching for, the chance to lay out the next steps for their future. But before he could respond, he noticed Ethan's calculating gaze flickering between him and the group. The possibilities loomed ahead, each filled with uncertainty and promise. But could Jack find a way to navigate this turbulent divide and truly connect with his team before it unraveled again? The question lingered in the air, a palpable tension holding its breath as all eyes remained locked on Jack. Jack took a step closer, the shadow of doubt still looming but determination flickering in his chest. He had to seize this moment or it could slip through his fingers like sand. "First," Jack began, his voice steady, "we start with open communication. It's clear I haven't been transparent in the past, and that led us here. I want to create a space where we can all speak freely, voice concerns, and share ideas. It's more than just me. It's about all of us."
The crowd shifted again, whisperings echoing off the walls as Jock's heart raced with every eye that settled on him. Would they follow? He pressed on. "I want to organize regular meetings where you can bring your thoughts to the table. What do you think will make this team stronger? How can we learn from each other's experiences? I need your insights. A few people nodded, curiosity starting to replace skepticism. Jack could see it. The offers of collaboration were beginning to chip away at the icy facade Ethan had erected. Second, he continued, I'm asking for your input on specific goals. Let's not just aimlessly move forward. Let's set tangible, measurable objectives so we can see our progress. I want us to celebrate our wins together, wherever they come from. A man near the front raised his hand hesitantly. But what if we fail again? How do we know this time will be different? Jack held his gaze, grounding himself in that moment. That's the risk, isn't it? He replied, his tone earnest. But without risk, we can't grow. I need you to know that I'm committed to this. I won't shy away from mistakes. I'll own them and learn. I'm asking you to join me on this journey, despite the fears. Ethan interrupted, looming in the background, his voice dripping with sarcasm. And if it turns out to be a disaster, what's your backup plan? Another grand speech? Every step forward is meaningful, Jack shot back, feeling the adrenaline surge within him. Even if we stumble, we get back up. I believe in learning from failures, and I hope you can too. Jack's voice rose, fueled by the growing support from his teammates. We've all been through the ringer. It's time we stop fearing the future and start emboldening our potential to change it. As if on cue, a ripple of murmurs cascaded through the audience, tension turning into a spark of intrigue. Some faces softened, nodding in agreement, while others still wore the skepticism that clung to Jack like a shadow. But he wouldn't give up. He refused to let Ethan's smirk win today. Then, unexpectedly, Maria stepped forward again, eyes shining with conviction. We've all seen how dedication leads to progress. Jack's right, it's time to embolden ourselves to take risks. Let's create a culture where we lift each other up rather than tearing each other down. That's real strength. Those words hung in the air like a warm glow, igniting reactions. Jack could sense a slight shift as suppressed breaths turned into nods of affirmation. Hopes were slowly kindling around him. But then came Ethan's voice, sharp and cutting, a reminder that battles were far from over. You think it'll take just a meeting and some optimism to fix everything? Good luck with that, Jack. Real change is forged in fire, not in soft-spoken words. Jack turned back to the crowd, resolute. But fire can purify, it can transform, and with your help, I'm ready to build that fire.
Together, we can burn away our past mistakes and go on to create something magnificent. As uncertainty swirled, a ripple of excitement intermingled with doubt. Jack knew they weren't there yet, but they were moving. He could feel it, a tangible thread connecting him to them, a desire to rise and unify. There was a moment of stillness, followed by the young woman who had spoken earlier raising her hand once more. Okay, but what happens if someone slips or resists the change? Are we prepared for that? Jack paused, gripping onto her question. He had no simple answer. Could he manage the complexities of human emotions while trying to inspire? The challenge loomed ahead like a haze, thick, yet maybe manageable. Could he prove that he was ready to change, that he truly meant it this time? His heart raced again, but he felt a glimmer of certainty. A new day was dawning, but would they brave the light? The silence that followed left every heart in the room holding its breath, waiting for Jack's response, as Ethan watched with the air of someone waiting for a failure. Jack's mind raced as he faced the room. The young woman's question hung there, demanding a response that felt both monumental and terrifying. What if they couldn't adapt? What if he couldn't hold this fledgling team together when the fire started to flicker? Taking a deep breath, he leaned forward, drawing on every ounce of sincerity he could muster. Change isn't easy. It can be uncomfortable or even messy at times. We can't pretend that everything will go off without a hitch, but we can promise to work through the slip-ups together. I want each of you to feel safe enough to fail, to voice your struggles without fearing judgment. From the back of the room, someone spoke up. But what if trust breaks again? How can we rebuild if we fall apart? Jack's heart sank slightly. The question stung, but he welcomed this chance to dive deeper. Rebuilding requires more than just promises. It takes action. It means showing up, being honest, and being willing to be vulnerable. He looked at those who were still skeptical. Their brows were furrowed, arms crossed tightly against their chests. They were stuck in a defensive posture, but he could sense the flickers of hope beginning to melt the ice. In moments of struggle, let's turn to each other, reach out instead of retreating. That's where true strength lies. His voice softened, almost a whisper as he added, when it gets tough, I'll be there. I promise to support you, to listen, and through it all, I'll do my best to earn back your trust.
A flicker of recognition passed through some faces. Maybe it wasn't just talk. Maybe Jack really meant what he said. Maria stepped forward. And we can make this a shared responsibility. If we take ownership of our actions, we can hold each other accountable with kindness rather than criticism. Jack felt a swell of pride wash over him. They were beginning to rally, the walls starting to break down.
Exactly. Let's create a team where every voice counts. This is just the beginning. We will celebrate progress together, however small. As the echoes of his words faded, a smile crept across Maria's face, one that mirrored his growing optimism. Small nods from others confirmed they were beginning to embrace the vision, a flicker of unity amidst the uncertainty. Yet Ethan stood there, a haughty expression on his face, arms crossed. Sounds nice, doesn't it? But you can't erase history with a few feel-good speeches. What's to keep those same mistakes from repeating? Jack squared his shoulders. You're right, Ethan, but every great story has its ups and downs. It's how we learn from those wounds that truly defines us. If we focus on the lessons, I believe we can forge a new path. Ethan sneered, but Jack didn't let it deter him. He could feel the tide shifting, a ripple of hope that couldn't be extinguished so easily. Let's give it time to unfold. We owe it to ourselves, Jack said, glancing around the room, seeking the eyes that were beginning to glimmer back with a sense of purpose. Then, unexpectedly, a woman from the back stood up. I believe in what we can become. I want to be part of this change. Her voice, steady and clear, carved through the air. If we're going to try, let's do it right. Let's work together as we step into this new chapter. Applause erupted, a wave of warmth sweeping through the crowd. Jack felt his chest swell. Surely they could forge ahead from here. But just as relief washed over him, he caught a look from Ethan, one that suggested a brewing storm, a reluctance to let this newfound bond easily take root. In that moment, as eyes turned back to Jack, filled with expectation, he realized this wasn't just about rallying support. It was a challenge to confront the weight of past mistakes, while choosing to move forward despite the shadows still lingering behind. Together, we'll face whatever comes our way, he declared with newfound fervor. But even as the words left his lips, a truth dawned on him. Would they really be prepared to stand strong when adversity struck again? As the clapping subsided, the room filled with a mixture of revived spirits and unresolved tension. Jack's heart raced. This was just the beginning. Could they weather the storms on this journey? Would the flame they started today hold fast against the winds of doubt? Jack stood before the crowd, the weight of their gazes pressing down like a storm cloud ready to rain. He could feel the transformation in the air, a collective heartbeat pulsing with renewed hope. But doubt still lingered, shadows of uncertainty dancing just beyond the light. Change is never easy. It demands courage and trust, Jack said, his voice firm but gentle. But let's face it together. We are a team. If all we do is speak our fears without trusting in each other, then what will we achieve?
The crowd responded slowly, nodding, grappling with the struggle between desire for change and the fear of failure. Jack could sense that they were just beginning to peel away their layers of skepticism. Then Maria stepped forward, radiating a strength that made Jack's heart swell. What matters is the journey we forge together. We must hold ourselves and one another accountable. Give one another a chance to shine. Applause erupted, punctuated by hearty cheers. With each clap, a weight lifted, and Jack saw the walls begin to break down. They were becoming more than a team. They were becoming a community. But then Ethan's voice sliced through the budding unity, his skepticism still sharp. Words don't matter if there's no follow-through, Jack. What will you do when it really counts? Jack's heart raced. The fear of failure loomed large, but he found his footing. I can't promise perfection, but I can commit to transparency and accountability. You will see the results. It's time to start walking the talk. A ripple of murmured agreement flowed through the crowd. Jack had sensed it, the undercurrent of change, the readiness to believe a little longer. He looked at Maria, a fire in her eyes, and knew they were in this together. Together, we'll create an environment where we not only acknowledge mistakes, but also learn from them, he continued. Every setback will be an opportunity to strengthen our resolve and grow. I want each of you to be a part of this transformation. The energy in the room shifted.
And this time, Jack noticed not just nods of belief, but true excitement beginning to blossom. This starts today. Let's organize our first team meeting where we can share ideas and set real goals together. I want every voice to be included, every fear and aspiration laid out on the table. And I'll be right there with you too, Maria added, to facilitate, to remind everyone we're in this together. We can turn this company into something we're proud of. Cheers erupted again, and the hesitant glances that had once filled the room were beginning to fade. Amid the clapping, Jack spotted Ethan's face, which was twisted into a frown, his skepticism still there but shaken, a shadow of uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Let them believe in you, Jack. Show them that vulnerability leads to strength, Maria encouraged quietly, her words like a lifeline pulling him back when he started to falter. With every cheer, Jack felt buoyed, no longer the solitary figure he once was. They would move forward together, eyes fixed on the horizon. There would be hurdles, but the first steps were igniting a flame. He turned to face the crowd again, now brimming with energy, a heart full of hope, and declared with conviction, "Let's build something incredible together, something that reflects our collective spirit and is rooted in trust."
With the applause rising around him, Jack felt the warmth of Maria's gaze wrapped around him like a comforting embrace. No more hiding, no more playing a role, just truth and purpose guiding their way forward. The crowd erupted into cheers and claps, and with each sound, Jack felt the old layers of himself beginning to peel away. They were beginning to understand. Together, they could do the unimaginable. As the applause continued, feelings of gratitude and unity surged through the room. Jack took a moment to savor this. He could feel the change that was brewing, the bonds that were beginning to form, not just between him and his team, but between everyone in that space. Then he realized it was more than just a business transformation. It was an awakening for everyone with him. This was the moment they would begin to redefine their lives, not just as colleagues, but as a cohesive, caring family. And as applause echoed and laughter filled the air, the light of possibility danced into the future, a future they would navigate together. "Let's make this journey together truly incredible," Jack concluded, and the crowd responded with voices filled with hope. Now more than ever, they were ready to light the way forward. It was time to build, to share, and ultimately to love, fully and deeply, for themselves and each other. As the crowd began to disperse, laughter and conversation buzzing around him, Jack caught Maria's eye again. He walked towards her, his heart light. "Thank you for believing in me," he said quietly, a sweetness in his voice. "I knew you had it in you," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "Together, we are unstoppable," he promised, and they shared a moment of camaraderie that spoke of endless possibility. With their hearts aligned, both knew they could navigate whatever storm may come. Love would be the light guiding them through the uncertain paths ahead. This is not just the end of one journey, but the beautiful beginning of many. Now, here's where you come in. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help our community grow. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of love and resilience. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Our family is growing, and only true fans understand the importance of boosting this channel through your actions.